to see the first little kind of movement on that area around the temple. Where it's going to go.
Chance in there, Brian?
I'm trying to
Yeah, I'm fine.
understand
I'm just
how.
reading through all the stuff, trying to get us prepared to take off.
Okay. Yeah, it's just stayed. Nobody, it's never, I mean, nobody's ever changed it, right?
Recording in progress.
I mean, somebody needs to have seen.
Oh, say, can you see? No, where'd the Sakotas go? The Sakotas were here. I was supposed to sing the national anthem.
Is us that are here, you're saying? Okay. Okay. Not that I don't love the dark, it just seems really dark back there.
Just don't like being on stage. It
Yeah,
looks like for me.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, there we go. All
Yeah,
right,
the audience is.
okay. That way we can see the shine off your head a little bit better, Alan. Yeah. Well, we will go ahead and begin with our meeting today, Planning and Zoning, February 6th. We will first have our Pledge of Allegiance from Randall Kempton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Vince Haley,
Here.
Randall Kempton,
Here.
Sally Smith, Aaron Richards, Jim Lawrence,
Here.
Bruce Casper,
Here.
McKay Francis, Vanessa Johnson, Brian Thackeray,
Here.
Vern Muir,
Here.
Dan Hanna.
Okay. Just got a number of people down today, but we're good. We've got quorum, okay. We need an approval of the planning and zoning minutes from January 9th, 2025.
I move that we approve the minutes as written from January 9th.
Motion by Randall Kempton,
I'll second it.
seconded by Jim Lawrence. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And we don't have any abstainings. Okay. We have one item here tonight for a public hearing, and that is White Owl Business Park rezone from L1 to MDR2.
Light industrial, so LI.
Right. That's right, light industrial from to MDR2. That's right, okay. First, we'll hear from staff. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Haley. Commissioners, the property that we are discussing, oops, we have an error. Just what we needed today. We'll blame it on IT because they're here. Just the GIS. Okay. As you can see from the staff report, most of you have seen that. This is the parcel owned by Mr. Latham, but they're only doing a part of this from the Teton River Road back down to Moody Road is what they're, are we doing the whole thing? Okay, just that part. So just from that Teton River all the way down. Okay. They're requesting this because they've had a request for housing to go in there rather than light industrial. They think it's going to fit a little bit better with what's going on with the temple and the other things around it, so they're requesting at this point. Staff has reviewed it. They are aware at this point. I think they can connect the current project that's being discussed can connect to sewer and water on Teton River Temple Road, so it will cover them for sewer and water that way. Keith signed off on it, says they meet the requirements. There may be at a certain point a connection that has to come out to the Moody Road for a second one, or they will cut back in to West Church Road. They're working on those options, but that's for future requests. So at this point, we would just recommend to commissioners for recommending approval to City Council. If you have any questions.
So you can split a single parcel into two different zones?
Yes, you can. Yeah, we don't have to follow parcel lines when we do that.
All right.
That will come, when it really comes down to it is when they plat this, then you will see those boundaries show up underneath it.
Okay. Which you've never done that before, so.
Yeah.
And this is maybe a question for Mr. Latham. I'm not sure if it's a question for you or if you'll make comments later. Just curious to know why, limiting, why not asking for the whole parcel?
They may put a different type of housing or something else in there, and they're just not sure of what they're putting up at
Okay.
that point. So they don't want to change it right now. But they are positive what they want to do on this side of it.
So I'm assuming that the comments that you made earlier about the sewer and so forth are addressing, so I'm looking at number 3 on your staff report that the city can't currently serve the parcel with sewer services. But
Correct, and they are aware of that. We are getting ready to put a whole new sewer line in that will come down to Moody and on back to the plant. That is projected in there. The developer is aware of that.
Thank you.
Because I know that it'll come up later, can you review some of the differences between height, setbacks, densities, that kind of thing, between light industrial and MDR2?
I mean, if they were to keep one and the other one in there, the differences?
Yeah.
Light industrial would have to meet the setbacks of MDR2 based on that, but where there's a road between them, then they would just have their normal setbacks from the road to separate that.
Because can you turn on the zoning around it for us? Is-
I don't know why it's not pulling that centerpiece in. There you
There
go.
it goes, okay.
So you have the light industrial, so what they're looking at is this section in here. And as you can see, when the church came in and purchased this land and platted it, we asked them if they wanted to rezone anything. They said not at this time. The temple is allowed in a tag zone, so they got their conditional use permit that we approved to go in there. They says when we decide what we're going to do with the rest of it, then we'll come in and ask for that zoning. So that's why it's showing the way it is. We do have MDR1 a little bit further to the west. So this, it's not an overreach as far as I can see.
And then what's the comprehensive plan look like for that area?
It fits we'll show you so you can see that. It shows the intermediate residential, which the MDR2 fits within. You have LDR3, MDR1, and MDR2 that all fit within that comprehensive designation.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Alan. We'll now hear from the applicant.
Appreciate the time. My name is Brian Latham.
Is that mic on?
Is there some switch? Oh, looks like it's on. Is that green light on?
Yep, you should be good then.
Okay. My name is Brian Latham, address 2535 Littletown Drive. And anyway, appreciate your time this evening. I know we typically, with this, we're just looking at a rezone, but maybe to give an idea as to why we're specifically going for this type of zoning is not necessarily the full density, but it's more for some flexibility for what we're planning for this. When we purchased the property, it's probably been 7, 8 years ago, there was no temple plan. There was really nothing planned in this area. We viewed it as a potential corridor. This property and a whole bunch of others, we saw it as a potential good light industrial corridor for some commercial properties that just were not available currently in Madison County. With the change, with the church buying the property and the temple coming in, we don't feel like light industrial's the best use to have next door to this. We are only asking for a rezone on the bottom 17 acres because that's the only piece we're looking at right now. So the northern piece will probably come back in the future for more commercial type zoning on it. But until we have a real project, we won't request that. We do have you've probably seen the signs. I think it's public knowledge. You've probably seen the signs on the freeway. We are working with the Homestead Group for a new assisted living facility, as well as it would be a facility they would wholly own. But if I was a city planner and said, what's the best possible use, I could put kitty corner to a temple. This is the use, in my opinion. It will be, and we don't need to get into the details of that future project, but it'd probably be 100 to 150 units of housing for senior housing and assisted living. So, and I think we all know what a great job Homestead's done in creating the facility they already have here. This would be, I think, a great addition for the community, and I think there's real demand for it. But that's all in the future, but that's the reason we're looking at an MDR2 over an MDR1. It gives us greater flexibility with regards to, I believe, doing a PUD, especially if we wanted a facility that went to 3 stories. There's some limitations in the MDR1. Even though the density would probably make the project happen, there's some other limitations in the zoning code that might make it difficult for Homestead to be able to build the best facility they want to build. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will now open our public hearing. We will first hear from those that are in favor of the proposal. We will then hear those that are neutral to the proposal, and then we will hear from those are against the proposal. So as you come up and speak, we'd ask for you to state your name and your address, and we'll go there. So first, we'll hear from those that are in favor of the proposal.
Sam Stoddard, my address 2740 West, 4000 North, Rexburg. I'm a little biased because I represent Homestead. We're definitely for this. Our assisted livings are full and our cottages are full, and we think there's a lot of opportunity and demand there, that especially where Rexburg's going and what it's doing. We love that location, and we've got right now a 2-story building planned. We don't anticipate going higher than 2 stories due to HUD financing and some other things. And so it's a real beautiful building we're designing with a lot of amenities that will add a lot of value. And seniors love the temple, and that'll be a real asset to them to be that close, and pretty convenient location for families of those seniors right off the freeway with the temple and Walmart and that there. And so we're obviously for it, and just wanted to make that statement.
Great, thank you.
Hey Vince, given that disclaimer you're so good at about how properties can change or developments can change.
Yeah. Do you want me to give that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Usually I wait for the discussion, but keep in mind, commissioners, that we're trying not to hear from the developer on what they're trying to do, because this property can always be sold and used to its maximum abilities of whatever zone that they apply for or is currently there. So keep that in mind as we're listening to comments here.
And everybody does it, and that's why we're so good at that disclaimer.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to speak in favor of the proposal? Okay. Anybody that would like to speak neutral to the proposal? Hearing none, we'd go to anybody that would like to.
There's a hand. Did you want to?
Didn't sign up, is that all right?
That's great.
We usually use that list when there's about 100 people that want to talk, so.
All right, I'm Wendy Sakota. My address is 78 West Moody Road, so I live right in front of there. I'm not against it for sure. I've talked to Mr. Latham about it. It's better than some of the other things that could happen behind my house. And I think this was a good option. I told him that I think a senior center would be good. And my only question would be, and I know they probably don't have details, how close is this going to be to my backyard? But,
We do have answers for you.
oh, okay.
In fact, I'll let the staff give you that answer in just a minute. How's that?
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else that would like to speak neutral to the proposal? And lastly, anybody that would speak against the proposal in opposition? Okay. No, and I didn't see any written response. Okay. Alan, will you address that number?
Well, I'm not supposed to address it because we're not talking about that, but in an MDR2 coming up next to yours, if it's their backyard and your backyard, they're going to be at least 25 feet on theirs, and then whatever distance you have in your yard would be the separation within that. MDR2 does allow up to, I believe, 40-foot tall buildings. So worst case scenario, if they were to sell it to somebody else, that's what you could see at that level going in there.
Will there be any residential houses in there? Just
Well, in MDR2, you cannot put single-family homes or duplexes. You can only do threeplexes or higher. I can tell you from what I've seen, but again, we're discussing the zoning, not what project's actually going in there.
Thank you. Is that sufficient?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Does anybody on the commission this evening have any kind of conflict of interest? Okay. Then we'll open it up for discussion. Oh, also, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we will open it up for discussion amongst the commission. I'll point out, because I like to do so, some of the differences specifically in the zones. Currently, light industrial allows for a 55-foot max building height, where the MDR2 allows for a max of 40 feet. So we're actually limiting it down by 15 feet in height. The setbacks are somewhat similar, 10 feet. They are different. 10 feet on light industrial, and a front setback on the MDR2 is 25 feet or 20 feet with a 7-foot landscape strip. So your setbacks are going to be different, your heights are going to be different in more favorable conditions to a residential area. Yes.
Just a clarification on that, when higher zone or light industrial comes up against residential, they have to meet the residential setbacks. So that's a requirement that makes them put a farther distance between.
Perfect. Great. Jim?
So, just looking at this area and how it's changing, it really doesn't seem like a light industrial is a good fit for that location. We already have some of the MDR, is it 1 or 2? MDR 1, a little further to the west. I think this kind of helps in that area with transitioning to what's going to be done on the other end or what it's zoned for. So I'm in favor of this.
Great.
Yeah, I'll agree that light industrial doesn't fit there anymore. The only question is, what zone what kind of zoning for housing, whether it's MDR 1, MDR 2, or so forth. The proposal before us is MDR 2, which fits the comprehensive plan, and I would be in favor of allowing the property owner to make that request, and then, as opposed to us dictating what kind of zoning they should be asking for. And it does seem to, I think, fit this area, particularly near the temple, I think. But, so, probably more in favor than I am opposed.
My only question is, we know the temple's coming in. What is the temple usually zoned in and whatnot? And if there's going to be any conflict with those two, are we allowed to consider that or not because it's a future project?
Yeah, we don't know. We have to vote based on what we do know.
Well, we do know. Okay.
Even if you've heard of things that are maybe coming in, until it
Until
comes before us or the city, it's paper at that point, right?
yeah,
It's an idea.
I mean, they're pulling in tons of dirt and raising it's pretty sure thing, but all right. Yeah.
Well, are you talking about in terms of the temple?
Yeah, like what is the other temple zoned as? Or is that something we don't even need to consider at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's different kinds of complexes that get built around temples, just depending on, where they are. Some of them are, single-family housing and pretty large houses sometimes, and sometimes they're more compact. More recently, it seemed like they've been doing some more compact kinds of things. But
And Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but with churches, religious facilities, there's a lot of exemptions and some of that for the different, maybe not exemptions, but allowances for lots of different types of zones. Is that correct?
Well, most of it comes down to they'll come in and ask for a conditional use permit for anything that's out of ordinary within the zone that they're asking it in. Where this is TAG, and this whole section up here, this whole block is just for the temple grounds and a stake center. So that's already been explained, shown to us. They're planning those 2 buildings in there, nothing else other than support buildings, storage for mowers or lawn, stuff like that. So that's all we know that's going in there.
And what's that usually zoned as, just for my own?
It doesn't matter because that's allowed to be asked for in any of our zones.
Okay,
So the zoning doesn't change for a temple.
all right.
If they want to change it to something, they could, or they can just leave it tagged forever.
And that was more or less what my question was,
Yeah.
is what kind of,
Okay.
Yeah.
what it needed to be zoned as for that building. All right,
Well, and as a neighboring property, the church would have been notified
Yes.
about this.
Yes.
And I don't see anyone here
yeah. To say
in
anything.
opposition to it.
And, we have no idea what their plans are. Typical projects that they've done in other cities is some of it's commercial, some of it's residential. But at this point, they've just says we haven't reached that point until we're closer to completion of the temple. Then we'll come back and start looking. And it's 2 separate entities of the church that does that. This is part of the presiding bishopric, but they actually have a for-profit arm that will come in and develop the rest of that.
The access, is there only one street access into that property?
Currently, but they will develop a second one. Then they'll do it based on when the fire department requires that.
Okay,
Yes. That all comes with the plating process that we will then go through and look at, okay, what are you putting in? And then the fire department will say, okay, now you have to have the second access. And when that plat comes in front of you guys, you will have that option to look at it at that point.
The temple did a lot of work on a ditch, a canal up there. I think they used a lot of cement, or did they just?
Steel. Use galvanized.
Now, that property goes over in that northeast corner. The little point up at the top, and then sliding off, the canal's right there, and it goes west. And then does it go along the freeway?
Yes, it runs right.
Okay, it does not go under the freeway at that point.
No.
Now, the last time we talked about this property, there was a question by a couple farmers about their irrigation water. The Temple's taking care of that problem, and I know Mr. Latham will take care of that to allow the water to flow through.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they worked with the canal companies. Anything they do within it, the jurisdiction of the canal company, the developer will have to work with them and meet their requirements.
And this particular proposal doesn't involve that corner of the property. It's just the
No, it's
lower
everything
the
below
southern.
it. So, yeah, we're not really, at this point, this section of it would have no contact with the canal at all. There's quite a separation.
Okay. I realize that we have closed the public hearing, but I did not give the applicant a chance to rebuttal. Is there anything you want to state?
Yeah, there's one thing.
Okay.
Thank you. Ron Latham again. I just wanted to address Mrs. Skoda's comment, because when we purchased the property, we committed to them that we would not do housing. And so I did reach out to them and we're like, we're doing housing, but this is not student housing, or we would like to do student housing, right? We had that conversation? Okay. So just so you know, if we do more multifamily there, especially up to your property, a couple things can happen. Let's say I sold it and somebody else comes in. You could come and, as a concerned neighbor resident, and you could request a condition that, hey, the last row of housing needs to be single story, or it needs to be no more than 2-story. You can do that sort of thing and ask for it. And then they have the ability to recommend that. I'll just tell you, as long as we own it, and I can even condition it in the sale of the property, same thing. But if we do it, we're not going to do anything right behind your home more than a single story. So, and what's being planned with Homestead, all of their cottage homes, which is what would most likely be behind you, are all single story. So, but anyway, I'm just mentioning that just so it's kind of on the record and so she's aware. But that's all. That's the only comment I had.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing again. Okay. Commissioners, any other discussion? I remember when the applicant came in for the light industrial, 4 or 5 years ago? I'd be interested in going back and looking at the minutes, but I'm pretty sure I did not vote in favor of that. So the fact that you're coming back and looking at an MDR2, I like it better. I think it fits better, knowing that we know what's going into that area. I do think the MDR fits better than what could possibly go in there with a light industrial. So with that, I'd love to hear a motion.
I move that we accept,
That we recommend to City Council.
recommend that we accept the White Owl Business Park rezoning from L1 to MDR2.
Light industrial,
Is that right?
light industrial.
Because it fits the area and will enhance the area there.
I second.
Any comments on the motion?
Maybe just amend to add that it also is in accordance with the comprehensive plan as it currently stands. Can add that to the motion.
Would you like to add that, Bruce? Okay.
Please?
And again, that we recommend to City Council, right? So Katie, will you read that to us?
Motion is to recommend that City Council approve South Business Park rezone from light industrial to medium density residential 2 because it fits the area and will enhance the area there, and it is also in conformance with the comprehensive plan.
Great. Any further discussion about the motion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, that is our only item on the agenda tonight. Anything else from staff we need to be discussing, be aware of?
We've got some upcoming stuff that may show up. I'm hoping we've got a couple of plats, at least one plat coming in front of you before the next one. So we will see. If not, we'll wait till the 1st of March and try again. We do have one coming in March, another rezone, I believe. Yeah, it's the rezone that we have coming in, so that's all we have on the agenda. If we only have the one item, we may try to do a training tonight where we were down to only 6 members, and we're still looking at changing some, Mr. Haley out here very soon. We wanted to make sure we did the training when we had everybody here. So that's our goal there, but we appreciate all the work you guys do.
Okay. Well, we will stand adjourned. I am done. December was my last.
Recording stopped.
Well, I'm staying on.